Welcome back to Nighthawk Films, everyone. My name is Ian Allen, and today I think this will be the last episode of my Pokemon team if I was in the anime. Now, I have stated that in the last episode, my character ages, unlike any character does in Pokemon anime. My character was about 17 years old at the end of the last episode, and it has now been 4 years since then, so he is now 21. My character is going to be a little bit differently operated than the new Pokemon show, Pokemon Horizons. I've seen a little bit of it. It's not bad. I actually kind of like it. But this one's going to be different. Since my character is no longer a kid or yet alone a teenager, he is now an adult. And my character actually has a job offer in Paldea to be a professor in battle experience because he is now the world's strongest trainer and has been the world's strongest trainer for the last 4 years. So he has decided to go to Paldea and teach students, new trainers, how to use their Pokemon in battle, certain battle experts, certain moves, what do well against what's weak against what, so on and so on, what you need to pay attention to in battling, because these new trainers are just starting their adventures. So my character decides to head off to Paldea from Kanto with his one and only Blastoise, and we start our new adventure. My journey through the Paldea region. So, since my character is here in Paldea with his partner Blastoise, he is teaching new students how to catch Pokemons in a little bit along with the battling aspect. The catching is kind of like an optional portion of the class you can take. Throughout his new career, he decided to teach his class a little bit differently than some of the normal classes that are taught at this academy. He decides that he will take his class of students on a field trip to different parts of Paldea because my character is still adventurous. He still wants to go out and explore the world. So while he's teaching his students how to battle and how to catch Pokemon while battling and what it's like battling other opponents and stuff, he will also be having the students teach him about, different things of Paldea, what Paldea is like. So in a way, we're both teaching each other. I'm teaching the students, they're teaching me, and what it's like to live in the Paldea region and some of the Pokemon that I don't know about. So after about my first couple of classes, a lot of my students seem to like this new type of pace. We get to go out and explore the wild. I get to see new Pokemon, I get to show them what battling is like. We encounter trainers here and there, I give them a battle experience. But it was brought to my attention that I can't just use my Blastoise for showing what it's like to battle and stuff like that. You gotta have a new Pokemon, what it's like to have a new partner on your team. So I figured I go to the head director of the academy, I hope I'm saying his name right, Claveo, and I ask him if there's any starter Pokemon that I could either use or borrow for my class, and he does have a couple. He actually has the main starter trio, Sprigatito, Quaxly, and Fuecoco. So I decided to take Sprigatito and make him a part of my team. So now that I have Sprigatito on my team, I can now show my students what it's like to battle with a Pokemon that you've had a deep connection with and a bond for years, next to a Pokemon that I have no connection with and have just met or just caught recently. Now, during one of our outings, me and the students were exploring the wilderness, and we ended up stopping for lunch, doing a picnic, and this was my first experience with learning about the picnics and making sandwiches and some of the benefits that they have, and it kind of brings out who a trainer is and what their personality is like. While we were making sandwiches, I ended up coming across a Pokemon known as Wattrel. I figured, you know what? I don't have any other Pokemon, so maybe this could be a great way to show off to my students what it's like to catch Pokemon in battle. Me and Sprigatito battle Wattrel, we weaken it low enough, I throw a Pokeball, I end up catching Wattrel, making this the first Pokemon I catch in the Paldea region. Because of this demonstration, my students wanted to go catch more Pokemon, so I said, go into the wild for about 5 minutes, maybe 10, see if you can catch up to 2 or 3 Pokemon, and I'll review your progress when you're done. So I decided to kind of do the same thing. So I ended up catching a Pokemon known as Fido, and I did some more running around and found a Pokemon known as Charcadet, which are pretty cool Pokemon in my opinion, and they make little good additions to my team. One of my students that came back to me had caught a Ponyard, and another student asked if they were going to try and evolve it into a Kingambit. Regardless, they're talking about a Pokemon known as Kingambit, and I was very confused about what this Pokemon was. I asked them, does Bisharp have another evolution? And one of my students said, yeah, one of the evolutions in Paldea for Bisharp is it can evolve into a Pokemon known as Kingambit. And you have to have like a specific item to help it evolve. That made me think of my Ponyard I caught back in Unova. So I decided to show off a Pokemon that is not from the Paldea region, and I also wanted to show what a Pokemon is like from having other past experience with me. Over the next few weeks, my Pokemon began to evolve during our classes. Sprigatito evolved into Florgito, and our little Fido evolved into Dashpan. He's my little Dashpan. He helps out with some of the cooking and stuff. My Wattrel evolved into Kilowattrel, which really helped out getting around certain areas and being super fast and stuff. Ponyard actually evolved into Bisharp, which really helped me get closer to getting that Kingambit that I was trying to study. But I also caught some other Pokemon such as Finizen, Frigibax, and I ended up learning about Paldarian Wooper as well. So I decided I want to bring these Pokemon onto my team. So I decided, you know what, Dashpan, Bisharp, I'll see you guys later. Frigibax, Wooper, come onto the team. So they come onto the team, they help me with class a little bit. They have like a really fun personality and stuff. Eventually, Florgito evolved into Masquerade, which is pretty great, having a strong grass type on the team. I found an item that would evolve Charcadet into Armorage, so having a strong fire type on the team was pretty great, showing off type advantages in the classroom. Eventually, my Wooper evolved into Clodsire, the variant of Quagsire. Then, my Frigibax evolved into Archibax, so having a nice dragon ice type on the team, so I'm not using this team for battling very much, just doing stuff with classroom. Eventually, I swapped out Bisharp for Armorage because I was getting closer to finding the specific item that would help evolve Bisharp into Kingambit. Eventually, I found it, and I evolved my Bisharp into Kingambit, and my class was actually very helpful with telling me about each one of these Pokemon and what they do, and especially helping me out with Kingambit because this is a new Pokemon for me. I don't know too much about it, and everything was going pretty well so far. One day, during one of my classes, I got a call on my Rotom phone from the director of the academy saying that he wanted me specifically to go down to a place called the Great Crater of Paldea with the current champion of the region, Gita, and a strong trainer named Nemona. They wanted us to go down there to do some research tasks, and because something had happened, there had been a big earthquake a few days prior, and they wanted us to see if the big crater had something to do with it. So, with this team of mine that I took, the three of us headed into the Great Crater of Paldea. We ended up learning about Paradox Pokemon, and they were coming out from the past and stuff. I decided to catch one, known as Slitherwing, and during the battle, my Archibax evolved into Baxlipper. While we were down there, we were being attacked by multiple different Pokemon that were a little bit more aggressive than normal, so we either had to battle our way out and continue our doing more research tasks, or leave while we still had our heads attached to us. So we ended up deciding, and we decided to just leave. We decided to leave the Great Crater of Area 0 and head back up to the surface. While we were back on the surface, I decided, you know what? I should study this Pokemon. I should study Slitherwing a little bit more. So I decided to swap out Clodsire for Slitherwing. And since Slitherwing is kind of like an ancient past version of Volcarona, I got to learn some different interesting similarities between the two. One of the things I noticed with Slitherwing was that it wasn't very hostile. When we were down in the Great Crater, he was very hostile, but when we brought him up to the top, he was very calm. Eventually, he got to know my Pokemon pretty well. He got along very well with them. He also got along well with my students and with the director of the academy. This Pokemon was beloved by almost the entire school. Eventually, the school year did have to come to an end. The school year was over and summer break was upon us. So I headed back to Kanto Plus, this gives me a reason to show off my Pokemon to Professor Oak and see if he had any insight on some of these Pokemon, especially Slitherwing. That was the end. That was the end of my teaching experience in Paldea. Now that we were back home in Kanto, I added my Paldea Pokemon to Professor Oak's lab, and all my Pokemon got to meet my Paldea team, and these were all the Pokemon that I caught on my adventure from when I was 10 years old to 21. My Pokemon helped me become the world's strongest champion, and I even became a teacher for a little while. Well, that is the last episode of my Pokemon team if I was in the anime. I hope this story was interesting and a different take on Pokemon anyway. Having my character be a school teacher and actually learning from his experiences and teaching the next generation of trainers and stuff. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys liked the team I picked. I have a specific type of video I'm going to be making after this video comes out. Obviously, I'm going to do the full Pokemon journey story, but I'm not going to have any dialogue over it. I'm just going to have music and some effects here and there. But I do have another video planned, and if you stuck around to the end of the video, here's what it is. The final video that I will be doing for this series is, can my anime team beat Pokemon Scarlet? I will be playing Pokemon Scarlet and catching all of my Pokemon team that I had in this series if I was in the anime to see if I can beat Pokemon Scarlet. I might make it a 3-part series where I try to beat Pokemon Scarlet, the Teal Mask, and the Indigo Disc. Hopefully you guys like that series or that second part of this or additional series. Regardless, that's going to be it for today's episode of my Pokemon team if I was in the anime. Remember to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comment section below. Hope you guys have an amazing day. I'll see you guys in the next video.